I didn't buy the ranch to become rich. I bought it because my grandfather died on it. 247 acres of dry Texas land, stretching wider than most people's dreams. Mesquite trees, sunburned grass, old fencing that leaned like tired men. The kind of land that doesn't impress developers, but means everything to families who've bled into its soil. My grandfather used to say, "Son, land doesn't forget who owns it. People do." Turns out he was right. I'd been gone for nearly 6 years. Life pulled me into the city, contracts, deadlines, and a marriage that collapsed faster than a cheap fence in a storm. When the divorce dust finally settled, there was nothing left for me there. So I came back home. Or at least I thought I was coming home. The first sign something was wrong was the mailbox. It wasn't mine. Bright white. Perfectly upright. With a little metal flag raised like it was proud of itself. Sitting right at the edge of my ranch road. I pulled my truck over and stared at it, engine still running. My family's mailbox had been rusted, dented, and hanging crooked for as long as I could remember. This one looked like it belonged in a suburb, not out here where dust storms eat paint for breakfast. I stepped out, boots crunching on gravel, and read the name. Silver Creek Estates, Lot 43. I laughed at first. A sharp, confused laugh. Silver Creek Estates didn't exist. At least, not anywhere near my land. I followed the road farther in. That's when I saw the rooftops. 1. Then 3. Then dozens. Uniform tan houses, neatly lined like soldiers. Fresh asphalt. Street lights. Perfect lawns that drank more water than this land had ever seen. I stopped the truck again, heart pounding. There were houses on my ranch. Not 1 or 2. Not some abandoned trailer someone forgot about. A full-blown neighborhood. Later, I would count them. 96 homes. All built on land deeded to my family since 1948. For a long moment, I just stood there, the Texas heat pressing down on my shoulders, listening to the faint sound of lawnmowers and kids laughing in the distance. Someone had stolen my land, and they hadn't even bothered to hide it. I drove straight to the county records office the next morning. The clerk was a tired woman in her 50s, glasses sliding down her nose as she typed. I gave her my parcel number, my name, my ID. She pulled up the file and nodded. "Yes, sir. This land is registered to you. No liens. No easements recorded." I leaned forward. "Then why are there 96 houses on it?" Her fingers froze. "I'm sorry, what?" We spent the next hour digging. Construction permits. Zoning changes. Development plans. Every single document referenced Silver Creek Estates, but the land description was vague. Intentionally vague. They'd used an old county map that mislabeled property boundaries from before GPS corrections were made. A mistake. A mistake worth millions. "This development never filed a right-of-way request," she said quietly. "And they sure didn't file a purchase." "So they trespassed," I said. She swallowed. "On a very large scale." The access road was the final piece. One single paved road led in and out of the neighborhood. That road ran straight across my ranch. Built without permission. Maintained without consent. Used every day by people who had no idea they were driving across land that wasn't legally accessible. I stared at the map until it all clicked into place. They didn't buy my land. They assumed I wouldn't come back. The HOA president knocked on my door 3 days later. His name was Bradley Collins. Early 40s. Goftan. Polo shirt tucked in too tight. The kind of smile that had never apologized for anything in its life. "Can I help you?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. He glanced past me, eyeing the old ranch house like it offended him. "I represent Silver Creek Estates Homeowners Association," he said. "We've received reports that you're claiming ownership of community access land." "I'm not claiming it," I replied. "I own it." He chuckled. "Sir, this neighborhood has been here for 3 years. And my family's land has been here for 75. His smile tightened. "Our legal team believes the road constitutes an implied easement." "Funny," I said. "Because the county doesn't." He crossed his arms. "You can't just cut off access to 96 families. I met his eyes. Watch me. That's when the threat started. By the end of the week, I had letters, emails, notices taped to my gate. They accused me of harassment, of endangering children, of attempting extortion. One letter offered me money. Not enough. Another warned me of legal action. Not scary. What really got me was the assumption, the absolute certainty, that I would fold, that I'd be grateful for whatever crumbs they threw my way. They didn't know my grandfather. They didn't know what that land meant. And they definitely didn't know how patient I could be. Because before I shut down the road, I made sure I did it legally. The first lawyer letter arrived on a Monday morning. Cream-colored envelope. Heavy paper. The kind meant to intimidate before it even gets opened. I read it at my kitchen table, coffee going cold beside me. According to Silver Creek Estates Homeowners Association, I was knowingly interfering with established residential access, creating a public safety hazard, and threatening the economic stability of the community. They demanded I sign an easement agreement within 7 days. No compensation mentioned. Just my signature. I laughed so hard I had to sit back in my chair. They hadn't come to negotiate. They'd come to take. I drove out to the road that afternoon. Stood where the pavement met my dirt trail, boots planted on land my grandfather had plowed by hand. Cars passed by, drivers barely glancing at me. Soccer moms. Contractors. Teenagers with music thumping through rolled-down windows. None of them knew. They thought this road was theirs. That ignorance wasn't their fault, but what came next would be. By Wednesday, Bradley Collins showed up again. This time, he brought backup. 2 men in suits stood behind him, sweating in the heat, leather shoes sinking slightly into the dust. One carried a briefcase like a prop in a bad movie. "Mr. Hayes," Bradley said smoothly, "we'd like to discuss a resolution." I didn't invite them inside. "We've already discussed it," I said. "You trespassed. You built without permission. You owe damages." The man with the briefcase stepped forward. "Sir, denying access could be construed as unlawful coercion." I leaned closer. "And stealing land is called theft." Bradley's patience cracked just enough for the mask to slip. "You're one man," he said. "We're a community. Courts don't like it when one person holds families hostage." I smiled. Courts also don't like fraud. That word hit harder than I expected. One of the lawyers glanced at Bradley, just for a second. They knew. They'd built this whole thing on a gamble that I was gone for good. The harassment started after that. Survey stakes along my fence were pulled out overnight. Trash appeared near my gate. Someone spray-painted greedy on one of my barns. Then came the online posts. Local Facebook groups lit up with stories about a bitter rancher trying to extort families. They posted photos of kids riding bikes, warning that I was putting lives at risk. None of them mentioned that their HOA had never bought the land. None of them mentioned that the road was illegal. Public opinion was turning, exactly like the HOA planned. But I wasn't idle. I hired my own lawyer. Her name was Maria Delgado, and she didn't smile much. She read quietly, marked aggressively, and asked questions that made people uncomfortable. After 2 days reviewing the case, she leaned back in her chair. "They don't have an easement," she said. "Not express. Not implied. And they sure as hell don't have prescriptive rights. Not enough time." "What about eminent domain?" I asked. She snorted. "Private HOAs don't get that power. They need the county. And the county won't touch this. Too messy. So, I can shut the road down." "Yes," she said. "As long as you give reasonable notice and maintain emergency access." That last part mattered. Because I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was trying to teach them a lesson. We sent the notice on Friday. Certified mail. Posted signs. Filed copies with the county. Private property. Access termination in 30 days. The reaction was immediate. Bradley called me 12 times in one day. The HOA board scheduled an emergency meeting and invited local news. A reporter showed up at my gate asking if I felt responsible for displacing families. I looked straight into the camera. "I didn't build houses on land I didn't own," I said. "They did." That clip didn't air. But what had happened was even better. A county inspector showed up. Then another. Then a fire marshal. Turns out when someone starts yelling public safety, authorities start checking paperwork. And Silver Creek Estates had problems. Improper drainage. Unapproved utilities. Fire access violations. Streets that didn't meet county width standards. All things that had been waved through because no one expected scrutiny. By week 3, the HOA wasn't just fighting me anymore. They were fighting reality. The final offer came 3 days before the deadline. Bradley met me at the fence, alone this time.
No Ismail.
No confidence. We'll buy the land, he said. At market rate. I shook my head. Plus damages, he added quickly. And legal fees. Still no, I said. His voice dropped. You realize people will lose their homes. I held his gaze.
No.
Your board might. That was the moment he understood. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about accountability. At sunrise on day 31, I parked my tractor across the road. Behind it, I installed a locked steel gate, permitted, inspected, compliant. Emergency access, lane marked. Sheriff notified. County records filed. Everything legal. Everything final. The first car arrived 10 minutes later. Then another. Then a line. People got out, confused. Angry. Phones came out. Voices rose. By noon, Silver Creek Estates had no road. And 96 homeowners realized they'd been living inside a mistake. By the second day, the anger stopped being abstract. It wasn't about legal arguments or easements anymore. It was about groceries, jobs, and school buses that couldn't get in. I watched it all from my porch. The gate stood firm, steel arms locked, signs posted every 10 feet. Private property. No trespassing, emergency access. Maintained, people gathered in clusters, pointing at the gate, yelling into phones. Some tried to reason with me. Others threatened. One man kicked the fence hard enough to limp away afterward. The sheriff showed up before noon. Deputy Reynolds had known my grandfather.
He tipped his hat when he saw me.
You doing everything by the book? He asked quietly. Every page, I replied. He nodded, turned to the crowd, and said something that changed the mood instantly. Folks, this is a civil matter. Property owner is within his rights. That's when the panic really started. Inside Silver Creek Estates, the HOA emergency meetings turned into screaming matches. I know because residents started coming to me. One woman showed up in tears, holding a toddler on her hip. They told us the land was cleared, she said. They showed us maps. Another man came furious, veins bulging in his neck. You're ruining lives, he shouted.
I didn't argue with them. I didn't yell back.
I told them the truth. Your HOA never bought this land, I said. Ask them why. That question spread faster than any rumor. By day 4, the lawsuit started. Not against me. Against the HOA board. Against the developer. Against the title company that somehow missed 200 acres belonging to the same family for 3 generations. Residents demanded records. Emails. Meeting minutes. What they found was ugly. Bradley Collins had signed off on construction knowing the access road was unresolved. Internal emails showed phrases like, we'll deal with it if he ever comes back, and county won't push unless someone complains. Someone leaked those emails to the neighborhood group chat, then to the press. This time, the story aired. The headline read, HOA built neighborhood on private ranch without legal access. Reporters showed up again, but now they weren't asking me loaded questions. They were asking Bradley where the money went. He resigned 2 days later.
Didn't help.
The damage was already done. By the end of the second week, half the residents refused to pay HOA dues. Vendors stopped servicing the neighborhood. Trash pickup was delayed. Landscaping crews quit. Silver Creek Estates started looking less like a dream community and more like a bad investment. That's when the county stepped in. A formal notice was issued. No occupancy permits without legal access compliance. That meant refinancing stopped. Home sales froze. Insurance companies got nervous. The HOA's legal fund evaporated overnight. And then they came back to me. This time it wasn't Bradley. It was a group of residents. They stood at my gate, 10 of them, quiet, exhausted, humbled. "We didn't know," an older man said. "Most of us just bought homes." "I believe you," I said. A woman spoke next. "What do you want?" I thought about my grandfather, about how he'd fought off a pipeline company in the 70s with nothing but patience and paperwork. "I want the truth acknowledged," I said. "I want fair compensation. And I want guarantees this never happens again." They nodded. For the first time since this started, no one argued. Behind the scenes, Maria was relentless. She filed for damages, trespass, illegal construction, lost use of land, emotional distress. She also did something smarter. She invited the county to mediation. Because once government eyes were on this, no backroom deal could save the HOA. The developer disappeared. The title company settled quietly. And Silver Creek Estates. They were cornered. On day 27, I got a call. "We're prepared to meet all demands," the new interim HOA council said, including rerouting access. I smiled, because they'd finally realized the truth. The road was never the real problem. The assumption was. By the time the HOA finally came to the table, the mood had shifted completely. The first meeting wasn't with Bradley, he had long since vanished, but with a new legal representative and several of the residents who were desperate to salvage their homes. Maria Delgado sat beside me, expression unreadable, folders stacked neatly in front of her. "I'll speak first," I said, my voice calm but firm. "This land belongs to my family. Your access was unauthorized. That's not debatable." A young lawyer across from me tried to interject. "We understand, Mr. Hayes, but..." "No," I cut in. "We understand that you ignored the law for profit. I'm here to ensure this never happens again." The settlement over the next 3 days, we hammered out the details. Access rights. A new, legal road would be constructed entirely on land either purchased from me or from neighboring parcels that were legitimately part of the HOA's holdings. Emergency access remained immediate, but the original trespass route was permanently closed. Compensation. The HOA and developer agreed to pay full damages for trespass, land use, and legal fees. It was enough to rebuild fences, repair land erosion, and cover the hours Maria had spent untangling the mess. Accountability. The HOA board members responsible for the illegal construction were barred from serving in any official HOA capacity for 5 years. Bradley Collins' name came up frequently in documentation, but his absence was convenient. Resident relief. Residents were granted a grace period on dues until access was secure. Many of them apologized directly to me. Most hadn't known. Some had trusted Bradley blindly. By the end of the settlement, I realized something important. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't about making them suffer. It was about restoring balance. Rebuilding after the legal dust settled, I walked the ranch again. The steel gate was still there, locked, but the road had been repaired on legal land. Some residents came by, not with anger, but with small tokens of appreciation. A loaf of bread, a basket of eggs, a handwritten note from a child. I smiled politely, accepted what I could, and returned to my work. The ranch wasn't just property anymore. It was a reminder of patience, persistence, and the cost of entitlement. The HOA lesson word got around quickly. Across the county, other HOA boards began checking deeds, permits, and easements. My case became a cautionary tale. Assume nothing. Verify everything. And Silver Creek Estates. It survived, eventually. But with tighter rules, a more honest board, and a road built on truth rather than assumption. Bradley Collins. No one knew exactly where he went. Some said he moved out of state, quietly slipping away before the lawsuits piled higher. Some said he kept trying to invest in other communities, but the story of my ranch followed him. Reflection. I sat on the porch one evening, watching the sunset paint the ranch in gold and crimson. 2 months earlier, I had returned to find strangers living on my land, assuming power and ownership that wasn't theirs. Now, the land was mine again, respected and acknowledged. I thought of my grandfather and whispered, "Land remembers who owns it." People forget. And maybe that was the most important lesson of all. Because entitlement can never replace legitimacy. Patience, knowledge, and perseverance always do. The ranch was quiet again, except for the wind in the mesquite trees, and I finally felt like I was home.